The aim of the following video is to highlight issues of safety following a first generalised tonic-clonic seizure in a young person. The safety advice in this video is general advice only and does not take into account individual medical conditions or needs. Further clarification of your child's individual needs should be sought from your treating doctor. Sydney Children's Hospitals Network does not accept any liability for any injury, loss or damage incurred by use of or reliance on the information provided in this video. Further general educational information can be found on the Paediatric Epilepsy Network New South Wales website. The following education video includes a roleplay of a young person experiencing a first afebrile convulsive seizure and the subsequent conversation between the parent and emergency doctor before the child is discharged home. The video includes important messages relating to the risk of seizure recurrence, safety, and the importance of follow-up with a paediatrician. It is morning when Sally hears her daughter making an unusual sound. Sasha is 12 years old. When Sally sees Sasha, she finds her whole body is stiff with jerking limbs. She calls out to her, but Sasha doesn't respond. Sasha stops jerking after 1 minute. Concerned, Sally called an ambulance and Sasha was taken to emergency. 30 minutes after the seizure stopped, Sasha was back to her normal self. While Sasha is resting later that morning, the treating emergency doctor returns to answer some of Sally's questions.
So Sally, it's been a hugely stressful day for you.
It's been so stressful and upsetting and shocking.
Yeah, I'm sorry you've been through it. So your darling Sasha here, understanding she's had her first seizure, and I'm sure you've got lots of questions related to that.
Yeah, the main thing is, will it happen again? Will she have another seizure?
Well, I think she is at risk. The likelihood of her having a seizure depends on a number of different things, really. First of all, we need to clarify what type of seizure she's had, and we need to do further investigations to try and help us there, and then really work out whether she has a diagnosis of epilepsy. The best thing will be to follow up with a paediatrician, though, to have these investigations done. Sasha certainly has a risk of having further seizures, but the problem is we can't really predict when that's going to happen, and that can be very difficult. So we really need to focus on the concepts of safety and have a discussion around that.
So what should I do if she has another seizure?
So if she has another seizure, it's really important that you remove her from any danger and that you stay with her. You would roll her into the recovery position, onto her side, so that any secretions can drain from her mouth. Ensure to put nothing in her mouth, and it's important not to restrain her. So Sasha's had the seizure today where she lost consciousness and stiffened and jerked, but there can be other seizure types where you can become confused and a little bit disorientated and inappropriate, and in that setting it'd be important just to be with her and guide her away from anything dangerous and provide reassurance until she comes out of that seizure. We have an online resource available and it's a website, Pen New South Wales, and on that we have a first seizure package, and a part of that there's a number of different documents. One of those is a poster for what to do in the event of a seizure. So that can be printed from the website.
So do I need to call an ambulance if she were to have another seizure?
So to reassure you, most seizures would last 1 to 2 minutes. Certainly if a seizure lasted longer than 5 minutes, we'd have you call an ambulance at that stage. My understanding today is that her seizure lasted about a minute, and if you're happy that she hadn't hurt herself and wasn't otherwise compromised during the seizure, then you may hold off calling an ambulance. But it's important that you do present to your doctor so she can be reviewed. If Sasha has another seizure, there is some important information that can really help your treating doctor. So after you've taken care of her safety, then there would be some really important points we'd like you to try and note if you can. It's part of the first seizure pack, and we can give you that document. It's called the event record, and you can have a look at what information would be important for us to know about.
So Sasha really loves swimming. Do I have to stop her from doing that now that she's had a seizure?
Well, no, not at all. She can still swim, but it raises really important issues around safety, and there's certain guidelines and recommendations we'd give around swimming. Obviously, if she had a seizure while swimming, that could be life-threatening. We ideally advocate for her being on the outside lane so that were she to have a seizure, you could jump in and pull her from the water. We always advocate having a competent adult on the sideline that only has eyes for her, so not on the iPhone, not reading a book, but watching her, doing her laps. It's important that you remember that you need to keep your eyes on her at all times.
So we live near the beach and spend a lot of time, in the ocean. Can she surf?
So the surf's a lot more unpredictable than swimming in a pool for a number of different reasons, but there's waves and there can be deeper water and currents. And really the question you need to ask is, were she to have a seizure, would you be able to come to her aid? The same risks would apply for swimming in dams or rivers. Similarly, there'd be significant risk associated with, say, water skiing or scuba diving. So while we're talking about water, we need to be cautious about having a bath as well. Obviously, if we were to have a seizure while having a bath, that could be very dangerous. And also, if we only have a tiny amount of water, even an inch of water, that can still be very dangerous. So our general recommendation is to have showers.
Are there any other activities that she shouldn't do?
It's important that she goes on and lives a active lifestyle like she has been doing. But the important point to make is that she just needs to be aware of situations that she could be in that could lead to danger were she to have a seizure. So an example would be, say, climbing a tree, and were she to have a seizure while at quite a height, that could be very dangerous. So it's important to be aware of the risks associated with any activity and how to minimise them as best you can. Another activity we need to be cautious with is cycling. Obviously, it's important to always wear a helmet and avoid roads. We stay on cycle paths instead. So Sasha being a teen, there can be some concern around flashing lights with parties and use of phones and computers, but we find flashing lights is not a risk for most people that have had a seizure. But it'd be best to discuss the risks with your paediatrician.
Are there any precautions that we need to take in and around the home now that she's had a seizure?
So we just need to be a little bit cautious about locked doors within the home environment, so to her room or bathroom or toilet. Imagine if she had a seizure in one of these locations, you'd want to be able to get access to her.
Yeah, sure. So what happens once you've been discharged from emergency? Do we need to do any other tests?
So there will be some more investigations that need to be done. An important one will be an EEG. An EEG involves placing sticky pads on the scalp and looking at the electrical activity of the brain, and we're looking for certain patterns that may help us diagnose an underlying epilepsy. There can be certain patterns on that EEG that might mean we need to do further investigations, such as an MRI scan. So that would be imaging of the brain to look at the structures.
Does it hurt?
There's no pain at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's painless. Yeah.
Okay.
So Sasha's going to require follow-up with her local specialist,
Okay.
and ideally we'd like you to see your local paediatrician within a couple of weeks. If there's a delay in seeing your paediatrician, your local GP can be very helpful. So a paediatrician can discuss a range of things with you and answer many of your questions. For example, the results of her EEG, the nature of the seizures, whether or not Sasha has epilepsy, why did this seizure occur in the first place, and the likelihood of it happening again. Any further tests that may be needed, for example, brain imaging, reiterate issues around safety, pros and cons of taking medication for seizure prevention, and issues that might arise with learning and mood. So there's a subset of children and young people that can be diagnosed with epilepsy after their first seizure, or if they have recurrent seizures. So this can be distressing, and many questions can come about from this diagnosis. We strongly recommend talking to your GP or paediatrician about this, and there's also some resources available. So the Penn New South Wales website has information and really guidance on how to cope with a diagnosis of epilepsy.
Okay.
So Sasha's been very sleepy through part of this consultation, but it's going to be very important that you have an open discussion with her about what's happened today and the risks moving forward.
Thank you, Doctor. That's a lot of helpful information. But I think my husband will want to know some of what you've said as well. Is there anything that I can access from home that will go over what you've already told me?
There's the Penn New South Wales website that's a reliable resource with information on the management of seizures and information around diagnosis and further testing. There are also a number of excellent epilepsy organisations within Australia who can provide further information and support, including Epilepsy Action and Epilepsy Australia. There are links to these organisations on the Penn New South Wales website. It will also be very important to talk to your daughter's school now that Sasha has had a seizure regarding safety, learning, what to look out for and a plan in the event of another seizure. So I appreciate this has been a hugely stressful day for you, but there is a lot of information out there to support you and Sasha, and you'll certainly have guidance and support on this journey through your paediatrician or local doctor.
Thank you.